It's Carolyn Brown here, one half, and I always say the better looking half, but I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, of Career Care Package. And we've hijacked Naishad's stream to do this in. So if you're watching on Naishad's LinkedIn, we've kidnapped him and we've tied him up in a corner and we're not going to let him go, basically. So, but no, he's having a break today, so I'm flying the ship solo. And today we've got the lovely Tracey Henderson live on the show. And we're going to be talking about this concept of planning your job search and being strategic in your job search. It happens to be one of the cards that we've got as our Cards Against Insanity. So if you haven't bought them, I encourage you to buy them. Great Christmas present. And yeah, the reason that Trace and I are talking about this is that a lot of people don't really adopt a very strategic approach to their job search. Do the wrong amount of activity or mistargeted activity. So we're going to talk about how to really plan, how to really optimize and how much work you should be doing. And I think I've mangled this introduction enough. So I'm going to introduce Tracey. Tracey, I guess, fantastic to have you here, and perhaps tell people about what you do when you work with people who are looking for work.
Well, I thought that was a very good introduction, actually.
Oh, thank you. I was fishing for a compliment.
Yeah, no, it worked, especially when you've hijacked, the show. We want to make sure you're great.
That's right.
So I work across a couple of different levels. My work, I would say, predominantly is supporting people as they transition following a redundancy. So it's at some stage, either it might be before the redundancy kicks in, immediately afterwards, or sometimes it could be up to 12 months afterwards. So that's the majority of my work, but by majority I don't necessarily mean 90%, but it's a significant amount. I also work with people who are seeking redeployment internally, so they're looking for roles. They're facing redundancy, but they're being well supported to look for a role internally. And then the other type of work I might do is just general career support. So that's people who perhaps need to plan their career. Obviously, planning a career is fundamental to, I think, career success. But it might be having difficult conversations or finding a mentor, or just, people get promoted into a role and they need to step up and make some sort of social adjustments as well as professional adjustments. So it's pretty broad, like pretty much anything within retirement, setting up your own business, pretty much anything in career management. But I would say it's mostly in that intimate part of career management and managing their emotional responses or proactivity to advance themselves.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think that I know job loss or redundancy really sharpens people's pencils in terms of what they could do next. But a lot of what people do is driven by fear and general kind of, fear and depression and roller coaster ride of how people feel and that type of thing. So, when we spoke about the show, we did talk about the concept of that kind of planning. So what would you recommend to people if they've either just lost their job or actually looking for a job or a new change, in terms of creating some sort of plan for themselves, and why is that important, do you think?
I'm just going to pull that back a little bit before we move into planning.
Excellent. I gave you a double-barrel question.
Because sometimes it's emergency services. When people initially lose their role, the concept of planning, it's just not like it's just very strongly reactive, and I completely get it. I have a lot of empathy. I wish I could help them stop doing it, but I want to do the very best I can to support them if they are in that state, because it's like Maslow is still popular for a very good reason. So can we just say, once you're through that emotional heat, and you've given yourself a little bit of time to process what's going on, then I'm ready to then I probably can address the planning thing. So the type of thing about planning, there are a few different areas. Like there is, I think you have to be really clear on your urgency to find a role if it's financial. So if there's that situation, the planning might be, okay, I need to the level of my career, the job might not be available straight away. I need to pick up a contract. That's a whole conversation. So for the moment, I'm going to park that and just come into general career planning that you might be transitioning into another permanent role or looking to transition. So there's the real basic things. Number one is knowing what you want. It's the easiest thing to do that people overlook. It's not like, what can I do? It's what do I want? So taking those steps forward, the kind of things you might be looking at is the really obvious ones: type of work you like to do, geography, money, leadership, kind of environment you thrive in, type of team you want to work with, your personal development, flexibility, but being really clear on what you want, and don't be shy about enunciating. Don't be ridiculous either. I mean, don't be saying you want to transition from 150 to 500, but, being realistic about what you want. So that really helps. You were talking about mindset, but it also just sort of really helps you get comfortable talking about what you want, because it will come up all the time, not necessarily saying, what do you want, but, you'll be talking about what you're looking for. So that's a basic one. The other areas are, what are the organisations that are going to support you in, now, so obviously financial services is really big in Sydney. I can speak about Sydney with a lot more confidence and sort of broader. But financial services is a main game in town here. This is where the bulk of employment in it is. Great career opportunities. It's a generally high-paying, relatively high-paying sector. Offers a lot of opportunities for career pivots. But a lot of people go into financial services and say, get me this escape committee to get out of here. And I either want to go into professional services or work with, an airline or something like that. But I think you have to be thoughtful about that, because you will always be asked along your career path, why? Why are you interested in this role? Why are you interested in this sector? Why do you think you're worth this much money? How does this, support your career? So just like having agency about what it is in that area. In terms of research, then in terms of your planning is, I know this is, part of job search strategy, but I mean, any sort of commitment means that you're going to invest time in exploring and good career professional reflection about your contribution, but also, exploring the organisations you want to work with, why you want to work with those organisations, the people that could be interviewing you, why, and then, who in your network might be able to help you. These things, and, this is very random, and some people might do this as a mind map. I love mind maps, but I'm useless with them. Like, I need a spreadsheet. I really admire, can I just say, sidebar, I love the creativity of mind mapping. I wish I could do it and follow it through, because people really kind of come up with great ideas, really great breakthroughs. But I just typically set up a spreadsheet and have a very methodical spreadsheet. Other types of planning is how much time you're going to invest in your job search, so that you're taking care of your job search and also taking care of your mental well-being. And other type of planning are really like fundamental job search activities, like preparing for interviews, which is absolutely has to be factored in. You don't wing interviews once you hit a professional level. So those sort of things. Is that along the lines of what you were saying? I mean, that's what I would say is basics. They're basic.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons we're keen to talk to you, and I guess we, did the reminder on the cards around this, is that I spoke about it too in introducing the show in the video, is that often people go scattergun when they're looking for a job, and their approach is directed by what's advertised, and then all sorts of questions come up around that in terms of, what does my CV look like? What does my LinkedIn profile look like? What do I say that I want? How do I say this? But it sounds like, we're along the same path here, is that look internally as a start, however you want that plan to be visualized and put up on your wall or on your computer, look internally at the start. Because
very
it gives
much
you,
so.
That kind of confidence. But I'll backtrack to what I sort of glossed over at the start around that emotional reaction, because I think, we talk about people having an emotional reaction in a very general term, but those emotions when you lose your job or you've lost that financial security can play out in lots of different ways that you might not recognize as having that kind of reaction. So what do you see people experience? Like, how does it play out when you've obviously dealt with people at the coalface of that?
there's degrees. So
Yeah.
I think probably a very common response is, I mean, there's sort of anxiety and there's depression. So anxiety, worried about what's going to happen, depression about what's happened. So, and I mean, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't need to be pithy about two very important conditions, but I think that kind of dictates what's going on, because I think with depression, I don't mean, very, very carefully, I'm saying depression, small d depression, like a bit waylaid and a bit laid low. And I think when you move into that state, you're a little bit slower to get going. And that means that you take a lot of time, and you sometimes need a lot of time. So the other side of is just sending out everything to everybody, like contacting your network, and very high risk to do that when you haven't thought it through, I think, unless it's people who know you incredibly well and who can offer you support, emotional support. But if you're, sending out a whole lot of activity, you could really burn a good opportunity by just not being thoughtful about it. Some people are really happy, and that's the kind of emotional response I really like people who are perhaps approaching retirement, and this is great timing, or thinking about setting up their business, or ready for a career vault. Generally, I think they're pretty confident in the value they add to the market, so that, it's a good place to be. And, some people are more just very measured and objective and careful and thoughtful. So, there's a, very considered, and they're high self-awareness considered. So they're not likely to be reactive. So really what you'd like not to happen is to be reactive. But to be honest, it's not like stop being reactive. That's not the way it works.
Not going to happen.
Stop being concerned. Like that just doesn't go away. And sometimes the way that you respond is actually a way of processing, and hopefully you emerge out of that. Just another point is, most organisations, when their roles have been made redundant, are offered EAP, and people can be a bit about EAP, employee assistance. And when you think about EAP, you've got lots of functions, but a key function is to provide some tools to get through a very intense period. Really do think that, not to be concerned about vulnerability or being self-conscious, but there are people who are actually trained, no judgment, to help you through a very difficult part. So I really do suggest that, just as a by the way. Not everybody, unfortunately, is offered it, but if it is offered to you and you have concerns, to get through that period. There's a Kubler-Ross model, Carolyn, I'm sure this would have come up a million times, about when people find out their roles have been made redundant. Some of them sort of move into bargaining, and they go back to their manager and see if there's anything they can do. They can, be laid low. They can get very angry, and they will lash out at people who are trying to help them. But again, I think most people are sort of understanding. It doesn't mean they love it, but they can kind of help them through that. So there's a series of responses, but generally people move to a level of acceptance, which isn't joy, but they move to a level of acceptance, and at that point they're probably able to approach job search with a bit more.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? It's you don't realise that there's this sort of whirlwind of things that you could actually experience at that particular time. And just jumping back to what you said about EAPs, I mean, you are given this support, and I know that you do outplacement support with Lee Hecht Harrison as well. It's free. It's like, and they've got professionals, So most people that I know that work through it well take advantage of what's being offered as support, because you don't know how long you're going to be in that kind of no future security of a job or whatever you've got planned. So, but what do we also spoke about putting the emotions out of your job search. So what's you're probably going to lean through the screen and smack me around the head when I say this, but what's the perfect mindset to find a job? Is there a great mindset that sets you up for for this?
I think that there is look, I don't know whether it's something that you can just do, but what I really like, what you've got going on through the job search, and it's, it really does come down to people's personality. Like, I'm an extrovert, super emotional, soft, suck a fat anybody with a limp. Like, I'm a really empathetic. But
everyone hear that?
No. To be honest, we're very well boundaried as well, just so you know. But and I've been through 2 redundancies, and literally, I was like one of those people that like was really laid low, and I took a long time to get through and process. Slightly indulged by my husband as well, I might add. But I was, I had security, so I was able to take my time. And my thing was, I was just massively concerned about being rejected, and it's that fear of rejection. And you mentioned fear in the front end. Now, there's a whole lot of things that go on. I think identity plays a really big role in people separating who they are from their professional identity. Can be a bit of a really empowering journey, but sometimes it takes a little time to get there, to realize that you're not your job. But so in terms of mindset, one of the things I try and do is, you might be emotional, but just in the period of the few hours a day that you're in job search, try to be objective. So you're not really talking about yourself and your personality. You're really talking about your functional skills and what they offer to the organization that you're applying to work with, or that you want to work with. Is, if you're an analyst, what kind of analysis do you, what's the output of that analysis? How can that analysis support the organization? It's not that you're a really lovely team player and that you're really good at collaborating and that you're a great communicator. It's really about being hard-nosed about, and they all matter, by the way, in terms of culture. But in the first instance, what really matters is what value you bring to the organization. And typically, I mean, you must have seen this a million times, Carolyn. One of the key things, like, everybody wants to see someone like me because we do our resumes, and because people cannot see what they do and they can't see what their achievements are, and therefore they avoid doing their resumes. And, Carolyn, I know that this is a key skill of yours, and it's, to be honest, unfortunately, it's one of mine as well. But it's like one of those things that you really have to get good at, because you can reflect back to people what they can add. They need to see the value they add to a business. That needs to be in black and white. So you need to be fairly objective to identify them. You in that situation where it's like really like difficult to get it out of people what they, and then they get on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, it's an interesting process, because you can often get clouded by what's just happened. So your confidence is down, and then you often just think of what went wrong in your last job versus being able to go, well, what did I contribute, and seeing that more broadly. And then you can focus on just the last job in terms of what you've done versus your entire career. So often, and also you can get really confused about, your job description and putting that down versus, well, actually what I'm doing doesn't really look like what that bit of paper says. So that process, what I do with clients is get them to put their stories out on paper, in a structured way, like a style format. And often, I'll see a resume that somebody's got out of that process, and it's a very weird document in terms of half job description, half I think I should say this, versus and corporate language versus nothing around all those wonderful rich stories of achievements and problems and things like that. And that process with an outside professional, somebody does, like you say, reflect that back in an objective way, and then can tell you also what the market values in that. So you might be fantastic at teamwork, but teamwork is, like you say, it's the flavor of how you do things versus what you can actually deliver. So I'm not going to put teamwork as your number one skill, even though it's critically important. So there's that kind of process as well.
I'm always saying to my clients, actually, sorry, this is again, I just think this is a really important point on resumes. Get stuck on doing them, is they'll say, I'll be working with, say, a senior financial accountant, and I'll say, tell me about your skills. I am really good at collaborating and leading a team. I've got great relationships and build good partnerships with other areas of the business. fantastic at project management, leadership. And I'm thinking, I can do all of that. I can do, I can do that, but I can't be a senior financial accountant. Like I really, so I think that those sort of things, you've got to see where you get, what you actually get paid for, and then the way you bring it. So in terms of that's what I'm saying about objectifying yourself. And one of the other things, and I'm sure you see this, Caroline, is people really do not recognize things that they're great at doing. And I can tell you how they do it, because they get really dirty when other people can't do it. Why can't you write this email? Why can't you craft this communication? Like, I mean, but the things that come really easily to you, sometimes you don't respect. It's actually a really deep skill, and I really can't do it. So, so I think that process of being objective and not trying to weight your experience too much, but pulling out the functional skills, technical skills. The other thing about a mindset is that you really want to have a lot of agency. You want to be an agency means you're committed. And I'm in charge of my career. I'm not leaving it up to a recruiter. By the way, really need recruiters. Don't ignore them, even though people say you don't need it. You do need recruiters. And I'm not going to leave it to LinkedIn. And just so you know, LinkedIn is absolutely fundamental in job search, but don't leave it to LinkedIn. You actually need to own all of this. You're like the project manager of this activity. And as I said, you've got to treat this like a business case that you're presenting to, senior management and executive within your business about why this particular skill set belongs in that particular area. So that's sort of all the seriousness that you might take to an internal role. You've got to absolutely, I believe, did you hear those words? They're so absolute. But you really do need to bring that level of professionalism to your job search.
Yeah, it's funny. I always smile ironically when people say, and this is with empathy, I've got to say, I'm not great at selling myself. Yet they sell ideas and propositions and the business, all say that sales skill is all through their careers. It's all through all of our careers. We're all salespeople, and it goes back to, like, I always take it back to then, okay, what is an organisation looking for, say in this job description, and how do you meet those requirements? How can you deliver that value that they want you to deliver in that particular role? So I wanted to jump across to this idea about, we talk about networking, we talk about applying for jobs, doing your research and that kind of stuff. What's the right balance? I know there's not a one size fits all type thing, but what would you recommend to people looking for a job in terms of balancing those activities?
Okay, I would say, are you talking about time or avenue?
Yeah.
Yep and yep.
Sorry, you said you're talking about time
and avenue. I've got sort of time and avenue. There's two sort of components.
I was talking about time, but I'm interested in both. So.
All right. So I think that one of the things I believe, and this is not woo-woo, but effort is rewarded. So you need to put in consistent effort at applying for jobs and keeping productivity and not going down a rabbit hole of one job. So maintaining a lot of activity and being very, again, about professional with your calendar. So I usually recommend 16. I may be kind of like counter to what you say, but I think job search, a good job search is 16 hours a week, 17. I mean, that's a random number, 15 hours, 18 hours, but sub 20. And regular, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 8 till 1, put in the effort, finessing, and there's a whole different set of challenges which we'll come to, maintaining your records, making your applications, getting in contact with your network, blah, 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 come back to them. And then time out of that is chill, like taking care of your mind, taking care of your body, taking care of your family, taking care of your well-being. So you don't get to something silly like Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock, you can turn off your computer and think, thank God I don't have to look for a job again until Monday. You don't want to get yourself into that shape. And that's why I'm saying it's very measured so that you perform well. You might be interviewing outside of that time, but in the 15 to 16 to 17 hours, I think that's active job search. The types of job search activities are things like LinkedIn. To me, LinkedIn is absolutely primary at the moment. I'd say 30% of my clients, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think of all the avenues you can get a job, 30% of my clients get a job being approached directly off LinkedIn. So you have to have a really schmick profile that's, and I know this, I'm preaching to the priest here, but
Mm.
LinkedIn and people being found off LinkedIn is like you need a really good profile. So along with people investing time and effort and energy with resumes, I would the same amount of effort on LinkedIn, except LinkedIn seems easier, but you've got to do it properly. Cultivating relationships with recruiters, contacting your network, your A's, your B's and your C's. I know I've said this before, but your A's are the people you can contact really easy that you can call at any time. Your B's are the ones where you take a more measured approach, where you might be really thoughtful and a little bit more guarded in how you might approach them, or professional. And C's are the ones you hope you never have to contact. But once you've been through your A's and your B's, your C's they're not such a challenge. It's just maybe confronting. So there's your network. There's job boards. Now, at some point, one will emerge and that you'll feel most comfortable with. And I think, to be honest, the most common way is people just apply for jobs online. And, we say it doesn't work, but it actually does work. I mean, we put a lot of effort on other things, but applying for jobs quite often is the way you get interviewed. There's a job online and you apply online. But I would go with all of them. Don't rely on actually, I should say that, but don't rely on just applying for a job, because that what I was saying about a lot of productivity and that thoughtful productivity and that effort isn't just responding to jobs. It's just sort of making sure that you can be found. It can be made sure that anybody who looks at you online can see how professional you are. Your experience is really evident. The value you bring to their organisation makes you worthwhile talking to. I don't say put your resume up, but definitely make sure your LinkedIn profile is great. And anybody that you're talking to, going back to what we were saying, it might be somebody you might be waiting for a train. You could be just having a cup of coffee, speaking to someone, whatever it is that you're ready to say what you're doing. And so you being thoughtful about your general direction is just sort of forms part of who you are. You're not embarrassed or uncomfortable about what you're actually up to, because you'll need to talk to a lot of people about it. I went off reservation then, didn't I?
No. No, it's all good.
I'm really enthusiastic about. I'm really enthusiastic about being very productive. Not everything will fly. Not everything is the best. But the more productive you are, like, I'm not saying you don't send out 100 jobs a day or 10 jobs. I mean, you apply for jobs that you can do. Like, you don't apply for, and that you want to do.
Yeah.
But if you're not quite sure, but you're thinking it could be in your lane, then absolutely apply for it. But if you're thinking, oh God, I'd never want to work for that company, or I never want to do that work, then don't put your energy into jobs you don't want. Like, save your energy for the things that you do feel strongly about. By the way, have you noticed it's a good market at the moment for jobs?
It is a very good market. People are getting picked up quite often off LinkedIn. People are coming to me for help, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, I've got a job. So, which isn't to say you shouldn't come for help, because it is a great process of building up your confidence.
I think a lot of people are being picked up on contracts. So there was a time when contracts were like 3-month and 6-month jobbies, and just because of the nature of capitalism, let's call it, that people are like on 2-year contracts. So especially with government, and agencies associated with government are picking up good contracts. But
it is a good time. I just wanted to go back to, like, talking about this the break, right? So you're sort of saying up to 16, 17, maybe 20, but no more hours a week. But I think, an anxiety type is to be at your desk doing whatever for 40 or 50 or 60 hours and onto the weekend and that kind of thing. What are the benefits of a break? Because giving yourself permission to have a break is really, really important.
What you're communicating is taking control. You're communicating that to yourself. I'm in control. Because I don't think an extra 30 hours, 20 hours will make an ounce of difference. We all know what it's like in normal work, and you've got a really full-on job, and it's so intense and you're so stressed that you just keep giving more work and more work to the company you're with. And no disrespect to the company, I mean, you're offering it for nothing, and you keep working and you think, oh God, if I'm doing 50 hours, I'll just do an extra couple of hours. That 10 hours makes zero difference. You perform much stronger if you are, and that we've all got periods of intensity, and we all have to put in extra effort. And job search is no different. There'll be times when you obviously need to do more than I mean, it's not like I'm hard and fast in this. There'll be times where you do need to lift, excuse me, the intensity up. But generally speaking, I mean, there's only so many jobs you can apply for. There's only so many people you can talk to. And you're sitting there looking at your computer, you know, running over the SMH or playing Sudoku or something like that, feeling bad that you're not looking for work. But there isn't any work to look at. There's nothing to look at. Like, you've mission accomplished for the day. It's time to go and, you know, paint the hallway or go to the gym or head to the library or have some good conversations, or even more valuable, do some volunteering and get involved in the community. So I just feel like there's a point and everybody's got a different point, but there's a point where you reach where it doesn't matter about putting any extra. You're not going to get any bang for your buck. And there's other things that would be more valuable. So the benefits, I think, are just being very clear-eyed. And don't take, you know, well, you know, I'm an advocate for sort of 16 to 20 hours or something, but don't take my word for it. Make your own assessment, make your own platform. But it isn't, I really don't think it's a full-time job. Like, you know, there's this myth, and I don't mean to offend any of my colleagues, but there's this thing, it's a full-time job, and it's just not.
Well, I think the interesting thing about what you're saying is, okay, a limited number of people, you've reached out to all the people you can, you've applied for the jobs that you can. That is probably 16 hours or 20 hours of work a week, right? But that's 20 hours of work that is into, like, that's the space of the available job market, as you see. I've had so many clients that have found a job speaking to their train buddy, their gym buddy, their beach buddy, their ferry buddy, like that's anybody, you know, so to speak. And that's sort of, you know, you're out in a different realm where, you know, actually making genuine human connections counts. And that's what you're trying to do when you're finding a job. And you would be surprised about who knows what and where when you do it. But I think the other thing that's really important in what you said is that we tend to be really hard on ourselves about not doing enough work, right? And so if you're beating yourself up by not doing 40 hours a week work, then that's going to come across in your job search, like how you communicate to people and how you express yourself. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I love what you said there. Sharon has just jumped in and said, great conversation today. Thanks to both of you. Thanks for supporting the show, Sharon. I think you're still in hotel quarantine in Queensland, so I hope that's going well for you. So yes. So good. Just again, jumping back to that, doing something else, like, you know, you can get ideas when you're exercising, or things pop into your brain when you're more relaxed, and those conversations that you have, you're far more relaxed as well. So
I really am. Yeah. Sorry, I kept interrupting you again. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Go for it. You've got something amazing to say. You might as well share it.
This is just it. It's not that amazing. That's why I feel so rude about interrupting. You were saying really good stuff. It's my turn. It's my turn. It's not my turn. You know, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about networking, because networking up until recently, I would have said networking is the absolutely like number one way of getting a job. And by, again, number one way, in that vicinity of 30%, I don't mean that 99% of people get a job through networking. It's just in terms of effort. I just feel like LinkedIn has taken over, and that's just only from what I'm observing with my clients, and, you know, maybe it's the professions I'm working with. But, you know, by all that preparation that you were talking about, and we were talking about a bit earlier on, makes those conversations in your network so much easier, and that preparation so much easier that you don't even know. You know, for example, people who are transitioning careers, and they've sort of might have been in one job, they go into another job. And literally one of my clients, I'd say in the last month, was making a very significant transition, and she didn't know. It was very awkward. We were kind of informally talking about how she might make the transition. She spoke to somebody in a coffee shop that she didn't know, literally, and she got an opportunity to break into what she wanted to do. It was such a big change, a really exciting change. And, you know, you just never know. But she was ready for that conversation. Like, she was ready when someone's, you know, it was already going on. In that 15 hours, by the way, one of the other things is that includes interview prep time. I could not be more like, I'm interview preparation is really, really important. And so that talking to the mirror or taking the dog for a walk and practicing in the park and saying it out loud, that forms part of that 16 hours. But that downtime that I'm talking about, let's call it life that we're talking about outside of prep, that's where your subconscious, the things that have been really bugging you or concerning you or giving you pause, it's, again, when you're sort of chilling and doing something else, how many times, something's come to you when you're having a shower, something's coming when you're driving, or something in your brain, someone else, and you, oh my God, this is oh God, I hadn't even thought, and but you have to sort of be in a relaxed state. I'm not saying that relaxation is easy in job search, but in that relaxed state, that genuinely great ideas come forward, great inspiration comes forward.
I think so. And also, if you're chatting to other people, you're getting a different perspective as well around things. So it gives you a different way to look at something that might be going on as well. Just, back onto the networking, because one of the things I think people really do struggle with is actually doing that and how much they should do of it. My general rule of thumb is that if your skills are in demand, you probably need to do less networking. But if you're wanting to change your career into a different direction, exactly that coffee shop talk is the type of interactions that you should try and be generating. Because on LinkedIn, it's the same really as if you're applying for a job online. People are looking, when they're headhunting, generally for a specific set of skills, and quite often it's what you've done before in that as well. So, people are getting headhunted off LinkedIn isn't because they're going from being a pilot to a nurse. It's because they're going from a pilot to a pilot.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
that's just another thing to be aware of.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. And we're kind of flipping about networking, coffee shops and informal conversations, but networking is like, that's good fortune, really. What I was talking about was good fortune. And by the way, we haven't mentioned luck, but luck, there's that thing is fortune favours the brave and prepared, I'd say.
Yeah. Where preparation meets something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that, there's some brilliant quote that some person, let's say Seneca, came up with.
Okay. Seneca said, where preparation meets something, 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 something happens.
That's right. So, but preparation, like, I really can't, when you're young and you're cheap and you're easily influenced, like, you can get a job pretty easily, and come out of your, education system and things like that. I think that, it's easier. I think, and if people kind of work within an organization and they keep transitioning through roles and they think, oh, I can change roles really easily. And all of a sudden they hit 35, 38 and they're looking for a new job and they've got no idea how to interview. But this is how I interviewed when I was 21. Surely it hasn't changed that much, and it has. Expectations between 21 and a professional is quite different. And also when your informal interviews internally, you sort of think there's a whole stepping up that needs to take place with people who don't know you. With networking, I think that you're also looking at, people use LinkedIn for networking and it's very strategic. Like, who does Carolyn know that she might be able to introduce me to, or, industry association. I worked with somebody who was in a systems engineer and was transitioning into, a completely like data reporting type role. And what he did, he was in education, and what he did was, or what we worked together is for him to contact people who did that role in other research and academic environments, not to apply for a job, just to learn about how it worked out. And like, that sort of sounds weird, but if you think about it, it's a really practical way of doing research. Like, people, if you get past that trust issue, people quite have to sort of share information if you feel like you're operating with a level of authenticity and genuine interest. You're not just calling for a job. So, and it might be that, the thing about networking that's really key is that I might not be calling, everybody's concerned because they think, oh, I'm going to come across as really needy and I'm going to call this person and they're going to think that. And I get that. I feel really awkward when I do it as well. But it has to be done. Like, it's got to be done. So in terms of going back to that mindset, when you're contacting your network, it might be, I'm calling I'm a client. I mean, you just use Westpac as an example. You know, I know somebody, a former colleague that works in, you know, data processing, or, you know, data something in Westpac, and there's a role that's going in a project at Westpac. I contact this person to see if they can introduce me to someone, and this person will give me some ideas about the best way of approaching or how I can get past the recruitment team. You can never get past recruitment teams, but you know, how you might sort of think that's what you use your network for. You're not ringing them up and saying, hi, can you give me a job? You're just asking them some practical advice. Really valuable advice.
I'm going to do a plug for my Straight to Shortlist challenge here, because it is all about that informational interviewing that you're talking about, about reaching out to people cold on LinkedIn who are doing something that you want to do, or that could actually give you some information that might help you with your search. And I've been surprised at the number of people that actually say yes, you know, because you're showing it, like, you've got to have, it's really interesting, because when you reach out, you've got to have that, you tell them why they've got to believe that you've reached out to them specifically. You don't do it randomly. So you tell them why you're interested. You tell them what they can help you with, so you make it really easy for them. And you ask, can I meet with you for 10 minutes? And those three simple things are really all you need to do in that. And it does work. And people have found, especially with that career change, or there's something that they're doing they're not going to be, they might be overlooked when they're looking for a job, say local experience or wrong qualification or whatever, but it's worked time and time again. So if anyone's listening, it does actually work. So now we've got a comment from
I just want to say I completely agree with you. I think that the one thing about doing that sort of a program with you is doing it in a supported environment. I think one of the things, especially, to be honest, I find extroverts find it more challenging than introverts. But in that kind of supported environment is because it is difficult and challenging emotionally. It's not actually do it, pick up. I mean, of course, the practicalities are easy, but it's what you've got to put yourself through to do it, which is why, you know, salespeople get paid so much money. But to do it in an environment where you're getting encouragement, you're getting some tools, you're getting some, you know, when it doesn't work out, and you will fail, not everybody wants to, and you get through that, and then picking yourself up and feeling proud of and acknowledge what you've done so you can do it again. So I think it's terrific, that work you're doing.
And it is, you're right, it's absolutely the support. Like, it's actually easy to connect, it's easy to send an email, but you'd be surprised at how challenging people find that, because every single time you're overcoming being rejected. We really hate that as humans, basically. Do anything to avoid it. But I always say to people, sorry, I just say to people that the worst thing that's going to happen is that the not so nice people out there are just going to ignore you, and nobody that's reached out, somebody that says yes is generally a nice person. So you don't want to waste their time, but generally they're a nice person because they've said yes. So yeah. Now we've got a comment from Naveed here saying, here you go, Tracey, plug. I had the good fortune of being mentored and getting valuable advice from Tracey. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Carolyn and Nash for the ongoing sessions and bringing such nice people to us. So there you go.
Oh, that's really lovely. Thank you. Who is that from? Who do I have to say thank you to?
Naveed Mohammed.
Oh, Naveed, thank you so much. Well, Naveed made it very easy to work with. Naveed's gorgeous.
Oh, that's good. Well, actually, that's a really good point. Not specifically for Naveed, right? But just when you're working, when you're eliciting outside help, what should you take, like what should you bring to the table in terms of making the most of that experience?
You know, I think it's similar sort of rules to mentoring. Is that, what do you want? That person on the other side needs to know what you want. And can I just sort of, I cannot plug good manners enough. Like, whilst it's about you in terms of what you need, you have to be mindful that time and emotional investment on the other side is a big deal. So, you know, being able to tell somebody what you need and doing it with, you know, respectfully, but also with a level of confidence. So I'm not saying don't be like false humility and all, you know, but, you know, know a little bit about being able to say, as you said, why you're approaching that person all of those things, just a little bit of effort on your part. And as we go, that preparation and good fortune, that's where it comes up. The other thing is, please, 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 please. Anybody that you get in contact with during your job search campaign, when it's all over, you make sure you send them a thank you note and let them know where you've landed. Because it might not impact you, but it might impact, like, people have asked me for help, and this is, and then like suck me dry, and I'm like, I'm up for it. I've put myself out there, and I don't hear another word from them. And then if someone calls me the next week and says, can you give me some help? It impacts how I might want to help them. You know what I mean? In terms of that reciprocity. So please say thank you. Please say thank you.
Well, that's it. And then in a way, like going back to that informational interview, and you're seeking somebody to be your advocate, ultimately. That's what you want. And so you've got to tell them how that advice has worked as well. And yeah, so many people don't actually do that, but you never know what comes up and comes around the corner. And then the other thing is to actually make it easy for them. Don't reach out with, can you give me some general advice? You want to find a few specific things. They may not be what you end up talking about, but you want it to make it seem so it's going to be so easy for that person that you're actually seeking help from, basically. So, yeah.
Things are platitudes. Ubiquitous cup of coffee, like, let's catch up for coffee. Number two, pick your brain. Like, no. What do you want to know? What do you want to know? And if you don't know what you want to know, don't ask. Like,
well, you're not really in it, are you? That's the thing about it. This is the thing with all of this. People spot insincerity an absolute mile off. So you really, it's so much easier to connect with people and reach out to people if you've had a good look at their profile. You might have listened to them on a podcast or looked over their status updates, whatever, but there's a genuine affinity. There's a genuine thing that strikes you about that person. And then on the flip side of that, and this is sort of skirting around the subject, is you want that information on your LinkedIn profile as well. So if you want to be contacted by people, you want that kind of information that's out there that people can connect and relate to as well. So because this is a circular thing. You never know when they can help you as well as you can help them.
I really do believe in reciprocity, that it's just a chain of events that follow, that people help each other, and it has a chain kind of reaction that you just don't know where it'll end up. But, going back to kindness and respect, a really important job search. But sorry.
So, Trace, we are speaking of time, we're reaching 50 minutes.
I know.
Do you have any last tips you'd like to give people around this market in particular and successfully finding a job?
Okay, so this market is maybe not for every single profession, but right at the moment, I think the market is very good in the corporate space. And so if you've got skills and experience, and I wouldn't be like, I know we all want to break before Christmas, like, I want to break before Christmas, but I'd be really doubling down at the moment. At some stage, the borders are going to open up again, and the market is going to get really competitive. And I would say this is the best I've seen it in terms of people getting jobs since way, way before COVID. I remember Christmas, November 2019. Like, the economy wasn't great, and everybody's talking about it like it was glory days. It's not. Right now, I'd say glory days. So be super professional, really hardworking and committed in your job search, but make sure you take some space in between so that you take care of yourself, because one day you're going to get another job, and it's going to be a great job, and you will regret that you didn't enjoy this time as well. That it was a period of break, because you might not get it till, well, redundancy is pretty common, but you might not get this kind of break again. And I know we've largely talked about redundancies, but unfortunately that's probably where my leaning is. But, you will get back to work, and you will really miss the time that you could have used now to thank the hallway. Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Trace, for joining us. It's lovely to have you on the show with your pearls of wisdom. So what do I need to do to sign off? Okay. Don't forget to follow the hashtag Career Care Package buy the Cards Against Insanity. They're absolutely wonderful. We've had amazing feedback. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Naish will be back next week. I'll be on holidays, but still broadcasting from Eden, which will be fantastic. Looking forward to that. I'm in Painesville at the moment, so we do the kind of digital nomad thing. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. See you later.